I feel like if Madonna played Jessica Rabbit, this is how it would look like. Hello and welcome. First things first, just so you know, I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
You didn't catch me, Mr. Valiant. You were set up to take those pictures.
What are you talking about?
Maroon wanted to blackmail Acme. I didn't want to have anything to do with it, but he said if I didn't pose for those patty cake pictures, Roger would never work in this town again.
Today we are talking about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, a very underrated classic and an obvious favorite of mine.
Touchstone Pictures and Steven Spielberg present a Robert Zemeckis film.
We too may act idiotic, but we're not stupid.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit was released in 1988 by Touchstone Pictures. So, as we have talked about before, Touchstone Pictures is the adult version of our Disney films. Roger Rabbit is still considered a family-friendly picture, and it is rated PG, even though we have scenes such as these.
My problem is I got a 50-year-old lust and a 3-year-old dinky.
Patty cake, patty cake, patty cake. Nice booby trap.
It is definitely the most adult Disney film that still is considered a Disney film. It came out under Touchstone, such as Nightmare Before Christmas came out under Touchstone. We'll talk about that later on. But they both are now in the parks and have so much merchandise. This one not as much as Nightmare is, but still, you can find a lot of merchandise related to the movies. And I feel like a lot of Touchstone Pictures, they don't get that treatment as often. Today, it is a little bit more and more, and we'll continue that with Hocus Pocus, especially because Hocus Pocus was also Touchstone Pictures. We'll talk about that later on too, and that is slowly getting merchandise from Disney. Doesn't get the same treatment compared to films such as Frozen. And I don't want it to be completely hyped out merchandise craziness, but it's still something that artistically is amazing. The fact that they took hand-drawn animation and combined it with live actors is a phenomenon in itself, and the hard work and dedication that they did to being able to bring it to life and all the steps they took to making it happen is a masterpiece of itself. And that 1940s aesthetic that I adore, as well as you have that element. I feel like we can compare this to Dick Tracy that we talked about previously. Dick Tracy was based off a comic series, and it was completely live action, but it had that cartoon element.
Crime is out of control. Vice runs wild. Gangsters have joined forces to squeeze the town dry.
Dealing with the crime and the gangster mentality of the 40s, and this one does deal with this as well, but we're in Hollywood with cartoons, and cartoons are living creatures just like you and me are.
Betty?
Long time no see.
What are you doing here?
Work's been kind of slow since cartoons went to color. But I still got it, Eddie. Boop, boop, be-doo.
Yeah, you still got it.
It's a really cool element of it. It's such an epic crossover too, because not only did they bring all of our Disney cartoons that we know and love today, but we also got Warner Brother cartoons. And Warner Brother and Disney are two competitive companies. They have fought with each other for years in the beginning and still are complete opposite entities. So the fact that they created this movie and brought both of the companies together is such an amazing crossover that not many people talk about. It is like if you brought the Marvel and the DC universe together. It's the same extreme that they were able to do. It's taking Iron Man and Superman and putting them in the same room together. That's how crazy it was back then.
This is the last time I work with someone with a speech impediment. This means war.
It definitely has its value more on the fact that we have live action and cartoon, hand-drawn animation cartoon together. And it was the first film to really do this. As we go into the future more, Warner Brothers did do it a lot more, especially with Scooby-Doo and even with Looney Tunes back in action. but they used a lot more CGI elements with it compared to this film being strictly hand-drawn animation. And we already know how much longer it takes for hand-drawn animation to be completed compared to CGI animation. When it comes to our live action stars, we have Christopher Lloyd and Bob Hoskins are our leads. And then we have Charles Fletcher as Roger Rabbit and Kathleen Turner as Jessica Rabbit, as well as tons more voices. And obviously Jessica Rabbit is one of my all-time favorite Disney characters. I try to collect Jessica Rabbit merchandise. I have a lot of Jessica Rabbit pins, and I still look out for more stuff because I don't find anything related to Roger Rabbit or Jessica Rabbit in the parks or anywhere in Disney anymore, except for pins. You can find plenty of pins with them. Disneyland is a little bit different compared to Disney World. Disneyland California as well as Tokyo Disneyland do have rides with Roger Rabbit. They basically transform Mr. Toad's Wild Ride into a Roger Rabbit themed ride, and they still have Toontown respectively.
This is gonna hurt you a lot more than it's gonna hurt me.
We don't have Toontown anymore in Florida, so we don't have anything related to Roger Rabbit in the parks, and MGM Studios is gone, so anything that had to deal with that. MGM Studios also did have references to the film, especially with the prop shops and the backlot tour. That's all gone now. So even though it's only the 30th anniversary of this movie this year, a lot of kids today will not know any of the characters, especially within Toontown, which is really cool because I was so excited to be able to watch this and know all the background that we have silly sympathies in here.
I wonder who he really was.
I'll tell you one thing, Doc. He weren't no rabbit.
Or a duck.
Or a dog.
Or a little wooden boy.
Or a sheep.
Or a woodpecker.
Or a pussy.
And all the old Warner Brothers cartoons all together, and it's just really cool. And I love like old school Minnie, Mickey, Goofy, all of those are all in this film, and it's just a really cool throwback, and I really appreciate it a lot, and I don't want this like energy to die. I know I'm so nostalgic for this era of Hollywood that never happened, but it's the golden age of Hollywood, and it's what I was inspired by, so I'm always just hung up on that, and I love anything to do with it. So obviously this film is in that entire world and makes me love it even more, and it's definitely one of my favorites. Tomorrow we're gonna take a look at another abandoned Disney property with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So you can stay tuned, and as always, I hope you have a magical day, and I will see you real soon.